I spent over a week trawling through something like 40,000 words of Naval Ravikant's blogs and podcasts in an attempt to basically summarize all of his best advice in a video for you. And whilst I was on that journey, I came across a particular blog post from 2012, so over 13 years ago, which is very short. And to be honest, it deserves its own video. So I'm going to read through it with you right now. It's on how to manage people, but also how to concentrate on the important stuff. If you're a founder or a business owner, I just think this is so invaluable. So let's go through it. April 27, 2012. The title of the blog post is Build a Team That Ships. He said, I created my first company 15 years ago and I still can't manage. When he's talking about manage, he's talking about managing people. So even this guy, he's had 15 years of experience, one of the best founders, in Silicon Valley during that time. And he says, I can't manage people. And he's openly admitting that. And he says, I suspect that very few people can. With AngelList, which was his company, we want a team of self-managing people who ship code. So really interesting. AngelList now is, I think last time I checked, worth $4 billion. Extremely successful startup company. And I just think it's really interesting because traditionally, so many companies, and maybe you've been part of these companies yourself, where there's a lot of accountability and management, and there's a lot of meetings, and there's a lot of just people keeping other people accountable and all this sort of thing. And it's kind of like consensus that, that's what you need to have in order to have a successful company. And Naval, one of the best entrepreneurs of the modern day, just says he's useless at it. And so there's no point in even trying to attempt to do it because you can build a very successful company a different way. And obviously he has proven this with AngelList. So here's the key dot points of what he recommends you do based on what they did at AngelList. So the first dot point, keep the team small. All doers, no talkers. Absolutely no middle managers. All BD via APIs. BD stands for business development. APIs are obviously connecting code with what they're trying to connect. AngelList was, or still is. I mean, it's basically like a network for venture capitalists and founders that are trying to raise funds and raise capital. But it's evolved into a lot more than that since then. But originally, he just wanted to make sure that all business development was connected via APIs. But the thing that I love about this point is that he wanted to keep the team small and not have to worry about hiring managers to keep the team accountable. He didn't want talkers. He didn't want people in meetings. He wanted people just writing code. And that was the key goal. And every point from that leads on to this. Outsource everything that isn't core. Resist the urge to pick up the last dollar. Founders do customer service. Honestly, I think this last bit deserves its own bullet point, but this first part is really key. Outsource everything that isn't core. Resist the urge to pick up that last dollar. So what is core? Building code via APIs. Like that is everything in the business. He said that at the start. This is what they were focusing on. So everything else that isn't that, outsource it. And you'll see in the next video that I do on Naval, like he was adamant about understanding your hourly rate and then outsourcing everything else, because there's nothing more important than doing the core things, right? Resisting the urge to pick up the last dollar refers to, and I don't know this for sure, but he's talked about it in the past where it's like there's so many opportunities that a business can do and the business can go down. And the key thing is just to focus on what's most important. So yes, there are revenue opportunities here. Yes, there are revenue opportunities there. Yes, maybe if they do hire someone like this that isn't a direct shipper of code, they could make a bit of money here and there. And his point was just resist that urge. Focus on the key thing. And if it's not the key thing, outsource it. And the only thing separate to that is customer service, which a lot of us want to outsource because it's like a tedious task. Founders do customer service. And the reason why the founders need to do customer service is because the founders need to be talking to customers and really understanding the frustrations and the wants and desires of the customer in relation to the service, in relation to the product. So I think that should be its own key point. But basically, team does everything. Founders do customer service. Ignore everything else. Just focus on making really good product and focus on shipping. Next point is really interesting. People choose what to work on. It's better that they ship what they want than not ship what you want. And so this is this idea of productivity. It's like, how can we make people more productive? We need to get them to ship more. If they're not working on what they want to work on, they're going to be slower. Like it's just natural part of doing business, right? Whereas if they're working on something that they're passionate about and they think that they're doing some really cool stuff, they're going to ship more often and they're going to ship higher quality. It seems like so obvious, right? But building an entire business around this principle and hiring around this principle, I just think is absolutely genius. Next point, no tasks longer than 1 week. This is really interesting because this whole video is based on this. You have to ship something into live production every week, worst case 2 weeks. If you just joined, ship something. I really love this idea because it creates constraints. And for me personally, I operate really poorly without constraints because without constraints, there's too many options. You get paralysis by analysis. He just says, no task longer than a week. Try and ship something in a week. And if you can't get it done in a week, absolutely worst case, it's 2 weeks. But the idea is like we're shipping imperfect stuff because the action creates dust. Like literally just you by moving your feet creates dust in the background. This is what he said in another essay. And when that dust settles, certain things have been uncovered. And it's just a metaphor for you don't know things until you do things. And in startup world, like all businesses are like this. Like YouTube started as a freaking dating business, right? Before it turned into the YouTube that we know today. And they wouldn't have realized where to pivot if they didn't just take action and started shipping stuff. And so this very video was inspired by that. Like I had this grand idea for, this much bigger video for you guys. And I read this during my research for the video and I thought, man, I'm going away from this proven success principle, which is you just need to ship things. Because if you ship things, you get those iterations, you get that feedback, and you can just keep moving. Next point, peer management. Promise what you do in the coming week on an internal Yammer. I think Yammer was like a Slack. Maybe Slack didn't exist back then in 2012. And then deliver or publicly break your promise next week. It almost kind of reminds me of the recent Elon Musk Doge thing where he got everyone to email the 5 things that they accomplished, during the last 7 days. It's keeping things really, really simple. It's like, yes, you can be busy. Yes, you can do a lot in the workplace, but just promise and make it tangible what you'll deliver. And, yes, you've got all this other stuff that you can do, but like what actually are you going to deliver on? And just sum it up in a few words. And then that just allows you to just forget everything else that doesn't matter and come back to what's important, which is just shipping new products, new features, moving the business forward. Last point, one person per project. Get help from others, but you and you alone are accountable. And I guess this comes from like the classic school or university assignment. When you got a group assignment, there's always going to be inefficiencies with the group assignment, because some people are working on this, some people aren't pulling their weight here, some people aren't pulling their weight there. This allows just pure accountability. You've said what you're going to ship. If you either ship it or you don't, and when you do ship it, the end result is either good or it's bad. And they can either work with it or they can shelf it. Like it's plain and simple. And so, yes, maybe working in groups of teams could, create better products in the long run. But initially for the first part of the startup, it was like, just get things going. Like just ship more. Comes back to that classic story that I think was in Atomic Habits, really made it famous, which was the 2 types of university students. One was required to submit pottery assignment once per week for the entire year, and they would be graded on their best. And the other group of students was required to submit just one assignment, one bit of pottery for the entire year, and they would be graded on that one. And so they had the whole year to do it, whereas the other group was just forced to just rush their pottery assignments every week and just create pottery that was just like rushed and imperfect. And at the end, obviously, like if you've watched this far in the video, you know what the result is, or if you've read the book, like the group of students that were rushed into producing a bit of pottery every week by far got the best grades, because it was this imperfect action and these iterations that made them get better and better and better at the pottery. And so even though they were rushed, they were still able to produce a much better final bit of pottery than the group that had the entire year just to focus on one bit, because the group that took the entire year, analysis paralysis, they couldn't get feedback on their own work. They were just like too focused on one big thing and just didn't have that momentum. And yeah, it's just like perfect metaphor for entrepreneurship. And then for myself as well with this channel and with these videos. So finally, if they can't ship, release them. Our environment is wrong for them. They should go find some place where they can't thrive, or where they can thrive. There's some place for everyone. It's not perfect. And I love that he admits this. It's not perfect. Business is not perfect. Like, there is no perfect way to run a business. But there are ways to accelerate. And there are ways, proven ways that have worked for other people that we should, as entrepreneurs, should copy. We personally ship too many features. This is what Naval's saying. Many half-baked. And he's admitting that. The product is complex with many blind alleys. It's hard to integrate non-engineers. They aren't valued, but we ship. I just love this. And I think moving forward, I feel like if I'm going to produce really great content for this channel, I need to adapt this and hire people that are going to help ship content. Because if people can produce consistently and add value to an audience, there's nothing more invaluable than that. And so that's what I think I need to focus on. That was a result of this video. I can't wait to show you the full video of studying all 40,000 hours. If I've filmed it already, it'll be up here. If not, wait for it and I'll speak to you then.